this meeting to order.
Roll call, Mayor Juarez.
Here.
President McCarthy.
Here.
Council Butcher.
Here.
Council Newmiller.
Here.
Council Sutherland.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to do things a little bit different than we normally do. Traditionally, we do a work session before our meeting, but due to the holiday and the short items on the agenda, we'll kind of combine the both. So if council has any discussion, we'll do it in the normal method, but we'll have more of that discussion here versus what would have been a work session prior. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. How does council vote?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We're going to make an announcement to go into open discussion. If anybody in the audience would like to approach, select turn at this time, please do so. It's a quiet house today.
Yeah.
All right, seeing nobody in the gallery, we'll move ahead to ordinances and resolutions. So I have a motion for Resolution 2024-41, a resolution memorializing the City of Mills' status. This came up today, and I'll make a motion and I'll make a discussion. Sorry, rolling through on this.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2024-41.
Second.
Let's go ahead and have a discussion about it. This came up today. Sabrina had brought this up. She's trying to, what it had to do with grants and the application process. Oddly, again, because of our zip codes and all that, we're having an issue verifying that we are in fact on 4th Street, spelled out as the word and not the number 4. So we had to create a resolution to establish our actual mailing address, and that we are a city, and we've been a city for quite some time, so that's what this was added. Do you guys have any questions? It's pretty straightforward, I think, and it was in our packet as well. And I think we're going to try to move ahead and correct the addresses. When you pull up like Google Maps, it says all these streets down here are numbered and not spelled out, so we're going to try to reach out to them and correct it as well. Okay, with that being said, we have the motions. How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Fire chief, new ambulance. Do I have a motion?
Can we hear from staff first?
Yeah, staff.
Let's hear about what we're
I have no
moving
idea
on.
what you're talking about.
Come on, Aaron.
Do you need my address?
Why do you want another ambulance?
We gotta keep them running. We want the best for our citizens. So this is just a follow-up discussion to our discussion 2 weeks ago about the award we got from Settler Wind in September for $295,000 to buy another new ambulance. The first one was purchased from Dino Solar, and then this one would be coming from the Settler Wind Farm. And the only reason it's being brought up now before the project starts is the manufacturer of Braun Northwest is basically offering us a price lock-in if we're able to sign a contract before December 31st. And the discussion at the last meeting 2 weeks ago was about the leases, how many leases we have, if any of them are going to be falling off around this time frame when this first lease would come due if we were to order it now. So basically, if we sign this document and send it in by December 31st, it's roughly 530 to 560 days for completion. So it'd be pushing us to late spring, early summer of 2026. If we pull the lease basically at the time the ambulance is completed, then your first lease payment is 1 year later. So that would move us into 2027. So the city administrator had pulled some of the leases that we currently have now, and the most current one to drop off actually happened after the December payment this month was one PD vehicle. In 2027 There'll be a final payment in February of 2027 for a PD vehicle, and then November of 27 for the sanitation truck. So it looks like if we were to do this, 27 would be a double or triple lease payment year, but then 2 of those would drop off, and then the ambulance would be the only thing carrying forward out of those 3. And then we still have the fire truck, which I believe was a 10-year lease. We have the current ambulance now, and then we have for the fire department, then we have the bunkers and the SCBA, which was a 5-year, and we just paid its first lease payment in October, November.
How much was the ambulance again?
So the current one, this proposal here is $295,770. The approval for Settler was $295, and Braun's price for this one actually was to mirror what we just ordered. Mind you, MS-48 was $277,000 and roughly $770 and change. So that's how much it's automatically going up in a year's time. Actually less than a year's time, because we just picked it up in September. And so in 3 months, if we were to sign the contract 3 months later, you're looking at almost $20,000. If we wait until Settler starts in the spring of 26 to order it, who knows? We don't know where we're going to be, and so that's why we were asking the question of, do we want to try and lock this in, but then do we have the ability to carry a lease starting in 2027? And I'm actually trying to get this price knocked down a little bit. So with MS-48, we ordered an extra cab and had a shelving unit. We had the back seats pulled out and had a shelving unit put in, and they were supposed to keep some of their first-in equipment in there for ease of access. That is not being utilized. So in my opinion, we don't spend the money on it. We knock it down, we go back to a regular single cab. So we delete the extra cab, or super cab they call it, and the shelving, which, talking to the salesman this morning, he goes, yeah, you're probably looking roughly $5,000 to $6,000 decrease in price to do that. So shouldn't have to go over this amount, because all the as-built and everything were done with MS-48. And so I'd ask, like, is there anything, we would even consider needing to change on the box? And it wasn't. It was actually that shelving in the cab was the only recommendation for a change. If we were to keep it, it would be a minor modification. But personally, I don't think we need to keep it, and I don't think it's worth the expense to keep it. So we should actually be able to drop this down to about $290.
So,
So,
sorry, go ahead, Pat.
I was going to say, Chief, if we do this, because these things take a long time to arrive, where would that be in the context of the Settlers project itself? Would it have started?
So yes, so I believe Settlers is slated to start around February or March of 2026. And if that's the case, then this would actually be done shortly after Settler begins.
Okay.
And it's kind of ironic how the payments work, because we go testify that we need this equipment for the project, but if you wait until the project starts to even order it, you're a year and a half down the road before you ever see it, and the project's a year and a half into completion.
And the other ambulance is how old?
The one we're running right now, 9 years old. It'll turn 10 years old this next year, I believe, in March. So
then the way that the ISC payments work, we would be getting paid, but since we would theoretically have a lease, then the anticipation of a lease, then can we set that money in an account to pay it before we actually have it?
We can. I guess all these payments have always created a little bit of nervousness on my part because of the way they work. But I think that question was answered not with Settlers, but another project in the same county, because the county ordered an ambulance and it was essentially ordering it in anticipation. And they approved it. They seemed to be pretty excited about it. Actually, I don't remember if you were there for that testimony or not.
I think it was this latest one that they had approved. The state had approved being able to get it now and then paying it back with the funds.
Yeah, with the funds.
How certain are we that we're going to get that money?
That we're gonna get the money? I think we'll get the money as long as
As long as the project goes forth.
Project goes forward.
Cedar Springs.
Settler,
So it's, we may not, so then if we don't, it doesn't go through, then
then we pay for it
Pay
ourselves.
for it ourselves.
Right. I mean, they testified that they have every anticipation that it will go forward, that it is going forward, that they don't have any doubt. But, you know, I've never been to one of these where the applicants who were seeking the permit said, we don't know if it's going forward. I will say that on this particular one, they seem to have a lack of knowledge on certain things that usually are fairly clear, including, you know, what their sources of supply were, which is a little disturbing because actually the ISC funds are based on that. So they're working on pure estimates, but they seem to be certain that they were going forward.
In the current ambulance, that was bought with Dinosaur, right?
Correct. Yes, and
We're still
remember, waiting on Dino Solar to begin, and that one goes back to early spring of 2022, when we brought that one to council, and basically, council took a risk that, knowing that we were gonna have to replace the ambulance anyway, go ahead and get it replaced, and then we would wait on Dino Solar money. So it's a calculated risk of, you're at the mercy of these, you know, these companies coming in saying this is what we're gonna do, the ISC awarding you the funds, and then you sometimes cross your fingers.
Where's the wind farm located?
It's in Converse County, and I was thinking that it was directly north of Glenrock, pretty much.
That should be Dutchman.
No, you're correct.
Yeah, I didn't go to
That's
the
Dutchman
settler.
Solar, though. Now, so this one actually is, it's.
Still up in that
It's
area.
still in that area, yeah. It's small
Pastoral
compared to the
Mills.
other ones, actually. There's already a set of wind turbines in there,
Yep.
so they're basically expanding an existing wind farm.
No, I feel like that one has more odds. I would imagine they're gonna tie into whatever infrastructure's there.
Matter of the grants.
The fire department budget, I'm looking at you because you do all the budgets. If we don't get the money for this, do they have it in their budget to cover it? Like, where's the money gonna come out of?
It'll be at least payment out of one thing,
It'll be out of 1 cent?
and like we were saying, a couple other lease payments will drop off, so that will open up some room in the budget for that.
Hopefully Dinosaur kicks in, we don't have that one either. So.
Well, and traditionally, the wind farm projects usually take off, the solar ones are the ones that are usually kind of not going anywhere.
What would our lease payments be? Or what have they been in the past?
Do you know what the last 48s was?
It was 59 something, 59.
A month?
It's a year.
A
A
year,
year.
once a year.
Once a year,
Yeah,
What's that?
September each year.
There's a month, that's a little over $1,000
Yeah.
a month. That's one run. One ambulance run, right?
It's more than.
No, it's 59,000 a year with
So it
one
So it would be about
one
5,000
payment a year.
Or 5,000 a month.
Oh, I'm sorry, I see what you're saying. A couple.
Just
I guess I would move that we approve the new ambulance in anticipation that the wind farm will come through.
I second.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one has the best odds, so.
We're gonna need the new ambulance anyway, is my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I mean, if this one's 9 years old, you're looking at 10 years old, you'll have to cycle them through.
We're picking up a lot
Do
of
we-
extra Casper runs, we might as well.
There you go.
Right,
So we do use 2 ambulances? I might be
Sometimes,
stupid
yeah,
question, but I
sometimes.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what they're doing now is, when they have 3 or 4, and we get called into Casper, they're sending the second ambulance in with just one person, and then city fire, because they can't drive anybody's ambulances, their EMTs and paramedics go in the back, and then we basically transport them to the hospital. but yeah, because we're the transporting agency, we still collect the billing. So, before you, I know you made a second, but before you vote, page 2, whoever's, I'm assuming you're gonna sign this, basically it's a declaration on whether or not we want to pay off the chassis when they get it. If you pay it off within 30 days, they give you a $4,000 discount. But number one, we have no idea when they would get the chassis in, and then I think that would cause an even bigger headache with the lease and everything. So that may be something, just whether we say yes or no, just that is part of page 2 of this proposal.
So the chassis is 4,000?
No, they would give you a $4,000 rebate if
How much is
you,
chassis?
I wanna say the last one was 58 or 59,000.
I think that's worth it. I mean, any savings we can find is great,
Yeah.
but I guess the other token is
Where
that,
do we come up with the budget right now? Because that chassis could be done sooner than, it'll be done a lot sooner.
the
What
same
does lease
token,
pay
like,
for that? Will?
Yeah, if we'd have to do the 2, so it's, what they're saying is as soon as they get the chassis on their lot, so they'll, once everything's defined, they would order it. Once it arrives on their lot, they would give us notice, and then as long as we paid them for the chassis within 30 days, that's when they would cut the 4,000. As far as the lease goes, I don't know if we would be able to pull the lease for just the chassis and then do what we had to do on this last one, where we go back and modify the lease. Once it's done, that seemed to be a bigger headache, but that might be a city clerk question, because she was involved in that, weren't you? When we had to redo the CLP lease for 48?
Yes, yes. And I was looking up to see how much the chassis was on that one, but I don't have it.
well, here's my thought is, if we're being paid by ISC and we save $4,000, we don't actually save it, the ISC doesn't pay us for it, so I hate, it kind of, the ISC has kind of incentivized us to not do things like that,
Yeah, if they wrote you a check up front when it was awarded, then it would be a different story.
Yeah, we could say it would be pass that savings to the taxpayers, but the fact that they withhold it puts us in this position.
Right.
So with that being said, then I guess maybe it's a no.
And you pay interest on it for the entire time too.
That's true, yeah, which is the other problem there. Yeah, okay. So we have the motions. Any other discussion? No? How does council vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Do a motion to go into an executive session for a legal issue?
I make a motion to go into executive session for a legal issue.
Second.
How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Let's switch weapons. This is exciting. Yes, too.
All of council has returned from an executive session for a legal matter.
I make a resolution to resolve 2 ambulance debts as uncollectible.
Second.
How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. So I have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
How does council vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.